Welcome to Conversations with Personal Finance Champions. Here we talk with leaders advancing economic empowerment through financial education. We have a great guest today, Sonja Strzoda. Sonja brings a wealth of experience in the financial side of things. Her career was focused on the money management side of the investment industry, and she brings that to the financial education industry. Now, a great asset for this entire movement. We're glad to have her. Today, for those listening, you're going to hear about a few different types of financial education models. She's an active board member on several different high-level financial education organizations. You'll also learn about her mastery of networking, forming relationships, and how she's tying these different organizations together. Lastly, she's just a wealth of information when it comes to community service and making a difference. So without further ado, welcome, Sonja.
Thank you, Vince. Very kind of you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, let's get right into this. You had a career in financial services, very successful career, and you could have done any route. First, you could have just been relaxing and retired, feet up, watching TV, but you chose to be involved in financial education. And from there, you could have started a business, you could have volunteered, you could have participated in any way, but you chose to lend your expertise on the advisory board level of many different organizations. What motivated your pathway to choose that?
That's a good question. I could go way back, and maybe we'll get into this in the conversation, but I think I'll start by saying I was very fortunate to be able to make the decision to leave my operating role, my day job, if you will, and move into being able to give back. I knew I wanted to stay involved in a meaningful way, and my passion for financial wellness did bring me to the boardroom and allowed me to get involved in a number of organizations so that they could help promote financial wellness and education. But the primary motivation behind that, if you will, is that I had the option to make that choice. And I want that optionality to be available for others. And a lot of that came through the financial freedom that I had by making wise financial choices and good financial decisions along the way. I want that for everybody.
And I knew this would happen. I just didn't know it happened this early. We're going off script. Did you gain some financial knowledge in some way when you were younger? What was that path for you personally? And maybe how did you gain this insight into working toward financial independence at a young age?
So part of this is going to be personal interest. And then part of this is going to be something that maybe I can call self-preservation. So I knew as a very young child that I was naturally drawn to saving and managing money. I did grow up in a household of immigrants. I'm first generation, and my family was, they worked very hard, and they had some old-fashioned practices as it came to money. So for example, spend less than you make and don't get into debt and what have you. So I know some of that rubbed off on me, but I was also very interested in finances. And in high school, I took an economics class and just fell in love with it. I know that's odd, but I did. And so I moved on to major in economics in college and then move into the financial services industry. I am a lifelong learner. While I entered financial services, I continued with my education, got an MBA in finance, and ultimately became a certified financial professional designee. So that's really the personal interest side of it. I was always, sort of a nerd, I guess you could call it. And on the personal side and the self-preservation side, when I was young, my mom was involved in a relationship where money was used to control us. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I never wanted that for me. So I became financially independent. I earned my own money. I managed it well. And I think that was really the impetus or the why on the personal side. It was the self-preservation and the independence that really drove me to want to learn more and put myself in a position where I could make choices, whether it was, leave a bad relationship, leave a job I didn't like, buy the car I wanted, buy the shoes I wanted, go on vacation. And again, all by making wise financial choices. And that's what I want for everyone else.
That's great. The interesting thing is we talk with a lot of people every day. I'm talking with different people. They all have different motivators for being here, but I align with yours. I was that nerd as well. I found myself gravitating toward personal finance in the back of the class, reading investment books when everybody else was, paying attention to what the teacher said. But the self-preservation, I think, is key too. We see a lot of financial abuse out there. And I think that's just an important thing for people to understand, especially parents that are raising children, the importance of empowering them with this knowledge. And you had great influencers with your family. I was very blessed. I had very diverse family. Some were on the more, keep expenses low. Some were more on the, hey, take risk on investments. So I think that's a great tip for those parents really looking to make sure their kids are more secure. And you found those motivators that led you here. And we're glad that you are here with us now. And that brings us into your work with these really a variety of organizations. And one of the things I love about Sonja being here, you're going to get to experience 4 different types of business models within the financial education space in one person. So this is great. And I want to dive down into these groups you work with because I think they all are unique in their niche. We have a nonprofit that's working in a local community really to do some great things. We'll talk about them. You're working with a fintech organization, which is doing things on a national scale. You're doing things on the state level with us in our California Financial Educators chapter. And you're also doing supporting a financial service organization really committed to community service. So very interesting, the diversity you have in these different models. And I'm sure our listeners will appreciate your insight. Let's talk about WISE first. Can you tell us a bit about them, their mission, and what you're doing there?
Yes, and interesting. I know that you're saying that these organizations are very diverse. They're all also very connected. So I hope that comes across in the conversation. And the connectedness is in financial wellness, which is most likely why we're talking about this today.
Sure.
So starting first with WISE. So WISE has been around for 25 years. They're a nonprofit. WISE stands for Women Investing in Security and Education. It is a nonprofit focused on educating women and girls from all backgrounds on investing in personal finance. So the mission of WISE is to provide women and girls with financial education they need to expand their opportunities, take control of their future, and reach their full potential. So a lot of this, again, very much aligns with my background, my upbringing, my personal story, but it really serves as an unbiased resource for financial information and also career advice. So we work with a number of organizations, Girl Scouts, Girls Inc., Chapman University, UCI, Cal States, Fullerton, and San Luis Obispo. And actually, since the pandemic, we've been allowed to expand our network across the nation. We've recently brought on UMass University as well. What makes WISE very unique and why I was drawn to it is they have very unique quality programming and involvement of the women and men that are involved in the organization. We also work with PBS, Forbes, and Wall Street Journal editors and have some of the leading experts in the country involved in our organization. Mary Beth Franklin, for one, as far as the utmost advisor on Social Security, and leaders of a lot of very well-known financial institutions as well. So WISE is beginning to make a bigger impact, definitely in our community, but also across the country.
Yeah, it's a great organization. And one of the things I like, the money management workshops, those things you're doing there are wonderful. You mentioned the career side. And for those entering into financial education, oftentimes they're not thinking about the career side. But the reality is you need money to be able to manage money. If you don't have income, you're not going to have anything to manage. So I love the fact that you're opening the students' eyes to careers in financial services. When I look at the high school landscape right now, the majority of time that students spend is on science and math classes. It's about 6 total classes, 1-year classes on the science and math to prepare them for the technology and education. Many of you have heard of STEM. And by 2033, that will represent about 7% of the workforce is going to be STEM-related jobs. So it's a growing market there. But what is often overlooked is the fact that financial services by 2033 will represent about 5% of the total jobs. So I think you're doing a great service. And these are high-paying jobs, oftentimes higher than STEM careers and STEM fields. Yet most, including California, they don't have any financial education. These kids are graduated with no exposure to that. So I love the fact that you're combining financial education to maybe help expose them to a career and doing direct career planning for these people and exposing them to people that have jobs in that space. So I like that combination quite a bit. And I think that will make a real difference in their lives, because most, I don't know about you, I never received any career education in elementary, high school, or college. Maybe in elementary school, I did like color books or whatever, but high school, college, I didn't have any career education. I'm curious about you. Did you have any career focused education when you were going through your training?
I don't know if I had any career training. There was the opportunity in high school to explore careers, but that was more probably through a book than listening to somebody talk about it, and maybe doing some personal profiling as to what industries you may gravitate towards. But a big part of what WISE does is present different areas of career opportunities in the financial services industry. There are many, and a mantra of ours is she can be who she can see. So we bring in very high level women to talk about their career backgrounds. Careers are not linear. Almost every person you speak to, careers happen by happenstance or networking or what have you. And almost every person that we bring on to discuss their career background has that same story. So you can end up in financial services even if you don't start there. And there are plenty of opportunities, and WISE provides a number of career panels with very successful women in the industry that provide insight into their career journeys.
I love that. So for those listening, bringing in outside people that have experience in industries when you're doing these career type events, I think is great. Gives some realistic overview of what's actually occurring out there and the opportunities. I love that experiential type learning with guest speakers and so forth. I love what you're doing there. And the other thing I really like with WISE, and a lot of nonprofits overlook this. So we have a lot of nonprofit groups that we work with, and they're focused strictly on the end user, meaning the person that they're serving, the student. And they overlook, I think, a great way to expand their impact, expand their reach, and form relationships, which is collaborating with other nonprofit organizations. I think you've done a great job there in collaborating with these various groups. Can you tell us what that looks like from a level? I mean, what are you providing to them? What are they providing? Just for those maybe considering working or partnering with a nonprofit, what do those discussions look like?
Well, I will talk to this on a board level, and we are a very small grassroots nonprofit, so the board really does a lot of the work. We don't have any full-time staff or what have you. So our conversations and my role is making the strategic plan for the organization, where we want to go, what we're trying to deliver, what our impact should be. Also fundraising to some extent so that we can continue to add programming, to some extent the programming content, and then definitely the networking on finding the women that are interested in our mission, want to contribute, and then creating the information that's of best use to our listeners, whether it's on a subject matter, like finding a subject matter expert on estate planning or retirement services. Again, all unbiased. We have no financial incentive for having any of these individuals participate. And then finding partners as well to help spread our message. So expanding to new universities, networking with organizations that are interested in sharing our message. So there are a number of different things as a board member that we're involved with that is different in a nonprofit than maybe at a larger organization.
That's great. I think that grassroots level is where a lot of organizations are. So that's great insight there, because I know you work with some other organizations. We'll get to those here in a minute. That may be larger in scope and have different resources. So I think you're able to give us insight on the size and scope of organizations you're on the board as well, which is great. And I know one collaboration you actually were instrumental in forming was a collaboration with WISE, Girls Inc., and also the California Financial Educators Council chapter. So I think with that, you really play, you're a great listener. You understand the components of what different organizations bring, and you piece the components together. Us with the training and resource side, WISE with the delivery and execution side, and the Girls Inc. with the need and the students. Maybe you could share a little bit about that, and then we'll bleed over into the California chapter board that you serve on.
Absolutely. And NFEC has been instrumental in providing us with amazing information, curriculum, and materials. We are the distributor of the information, but we aren't the expert in content creation, of which NFEC is. So not only am I honored to be part of the NFEC California Council, but even more so in their willingness and ability to provide WISE with customized materials and curriculum that we could focus and use for our Girls Inc. Collaboration, if you will. So NFEC was able to understand our audience, know what we wanted to convey to that audience, what was important, how it could be delivered best, and provide us with customized materials to share with those girls. So just instrumental in providing our nonprofit with materials that we could not create on our own.
No, that was great working with that group and just learning about that on a deep level, and how you're really serving a much needed area of that group. So it was a great role for us. We're happy to contribute. And just a little background on the California Financial Educators Council, just to explain one of those, and I'll let you carry on with the other two. The California chapters really focus on increasing access to quality materials through partnerships with organizations like WISE and other groups. We're also big advocates trying to raise standards for financial education, and also getting parental involvement, and finally building good quality relationships like Sonja and the other board members we have out there in California, really just giving some great insight there. And I know California was our first chapter to launch, and we actually had different plans with the direction we were going to take it, but because of the success of that, we formed 9 other chapters here real quickly. That wasn't the original plan, but people looked at the California chapter, saw some good things happening, and want to bring it to their own community. And it was really a big part due to our board, their feedback, and their involvement. And Sonja being active in helping us form relationships like you did. So we're very, very grateful for your service as well.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Knomee. I met with, I believe it was Maria?
Marla, yes.
Marla, great person, really cool fintech side of things, and I think it's a great service. And again, the nonprofit side, the social impact side. Now we're talking about the fintech side. Can you tell us a little bit about what drew you there and what you're trying to accomplish with them?
Yes, and fascinating for me. Talk about being a lifelong learner. Getting some exposure in the fintech world. I'm definitely the fin in the fintech and not the tech, but so this is great for me to be involved with. And I was connected to Marla through networking. So I can't encourage networking enough. I think there's power in the village and in connectedness. So I encourage everyone to network. And so Knomee is a fintech startup. It's primarily based on an application, an app or a website, but it is a financial wellness app that through engaging activities guides users to reflect on their past and define their goals for the future. So it's really geared towards the younger generations that are digital natives and are very much bringing financial empowerment, learning, literacy to the digital space. There is a lot of research behind Knomee, just like behind NFEC, where it's built based upon that deep research into financial behavior and psychology. And it also provides to some extent, gamification of getting to know your financial identity, a reward system for encouraging you to make wise financial decisions. But it really helps individuals get to know what personally motivates them regarding money, life, behaviors, values, their mission, and then helps to guide them to receive financial information at different life stages when they're ready for it. Interestingly, and this is the tech side of it, which again, I'm in the learning process of, information privacy is very important. And Knomee one is one of the few financial applications that allows users to own their own information. And it's up to them to share that information when and if they're ready. So there's not data gathering, and this information is not being sold to financial services entities. This is yours, and you own it.
That's great. And really what Knomee's doing is the foundation of what educators and coaches should be doing, is understanding that individual. Remember, personal finance is personal. So we need to understand the individual, the motives, their motivations, their values, their goals, what they're trying to do. And I think they do a great job in getting that information and allow them to share that with other financial professionals that they choose. I love that connection to where they don't have to restate the same thing over. They can spend a lot of time in really thinking through, hey, what am I trying to accomplish? What are my values? What do I need with money? And then being able to relay that to financial professionals. And from a financial professional side, going back 20 years in my life, I would have valued that extremely as well, because oftentimes, a lot of the time, having that initial meeting with the clients, they don't know the direction they want to go. They're kind of lost, and you have to pull it out of them. It takes a while to get the information. And sometimes when they're thinking of it like right then, they're nervous and they're saying something that may not be exactly true because they haven't had time to reflect. And I like the whole idea of having people reflect and do these activities that lead to an actual conclusion that is likely going to stay with them for a while. Now, their goals may change and things of that nature, but at least it's thoughtful in what they're passing along to their financial advisor. So I think that's great. And then finally, you're working with an organization, NuVision, doing a lot of things, NuVision Credit Union. They're doing a lot of things. They're definitely not a startup. I see a theme here with two startups, or one startup and initiative. But I know NuVision is a larger credit union through Southern California. Share what you're doing there and how this aligns with these other groups.
Yes, NuVision is a large and growing organization. We're going through the process of 3 acquisitions right now, so definitely growing. Over $3 billion in assets, getting close to $4 billion. And we are in a number of states along the West Coast. So NuVision is a not-for-profit financial institution that provides banking services to its members who are also owners. And that's a little unique when it comes to the credit union movement versus the banks, if you will, who have shareholders. So they are for-profit institutions. NuVision is also very community focused, as most credit unions are, but there are a number of initiatives that we really focus on in the community, one being financial education and empowerment. We also work to serve veterans and then also food insecurity in our local communities throughout the states that we work in. So my role at NuVision is different, given NuVision is very established. We are going to be celebrating our 100th anniversary within the next decade. So we've been around for a long time. And this is very much more governance focused, being on the board. So strategic planning, risk management, policies and procedures. It's a very regulated industry, so making sure that we are in good standing with the regulators and that we are really working to safeguard our member owners' assets, but on a very high level. So again, this is more of a high level board position for me, in that we don't get our hands dirty like we do at Wise, where it's very grassroots. It's very much an oversight responsibility on this more corporate board structure, if you will.
That's great. No, it looks like they're doing some great service. Food insecurity is only beginning to rise. And I think for anybody in the space, a lot of about financial education is addressing challenges that people are facing in the economy today. Food insecurity is one that's grown rapidly. Veterans have always needed support, so we're always appreciative there. In general, financial education is good from a proactive stance, or more to help people overcome certain challenges. So, for those considering a program, look at the environment. Where are you needed, and how can you fill in the gap? NuVision's done a great job with doing that, really serving their community in a meaningful way. And I'm curious, as we zoom out, right, we kind of took a focus in on each of these four organizations you're involved with on a board level. You must have a very good perspective on these different agencies and how they're working. I think you have a good overview. Typically, when I talk with people, they have a singular focus, which is great as well. They're starting a business, they're running a nonprofit, they're in financial services and doing financial education programming, but you're really across four different sectors. How is this giving you a different perspective on the overall financial wellness industry?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if that involvement has given me a different perspective than just my personal experience and the tenure and the length that I've been involved in financial services. And I think to that extent, it's not perfect. It's always evolving. And there are always ways that you can get involved to make things better. So that can be as an employee within an organization, but it can also be as a board member or a volunteer or a networker, even just sharing information with people that you feel could be helped by some of these organizations out there that exist to fill the gap. So it's not to say that you can't have an impact or there isn't an intersection being in the corporate world versus the nonprofit world versus your volunteer world or your community. So I think the perspective that I have is that there's room for improvement in all of it, but there's also opportunity to help individuals in all of those areas as well. So I like to look at the bright side, and there's always things that can be done, but I think that we are here to help others. And so I find myself in the unique situation of having the experience in all of these areas, that I know that giving back now is a big part of what I can do. And again, much in part because of the financial empowerment and education that I was fortunate to absorb and learn along the way.
That's great. That personal experience, led you to this passion, and now you're here. And I think you brought up some really great points for those people considering paths, right? Yeah, you not only have these different verticals of, for-profit, nonprofit, financial services, etc., but you have also different ways you could participate. So when you mentioned volunteering, getting the career or job, or maybe starting your own organization. So there's a variety of ways you can participate. I can tell you, just on my daily call list, I talk with people of all different backgrounds, all different, goals, and for, what they want to do, how they want to participate, but they all share one thing in common, and that is really wanting to serve and give back to their community in a meaningful way. Most of the people I talk to, not everybody, but they overcame their own financial challenges early. That was really the gas for the fire, right? That came, and now they have this pathway they can go and really serve their community in a meaningful way on a variety of ways. So for those that are considering, how do I get involved? It's going to be a very fluid situation. I always encourage people to get involved in many different levels. from volunteering early on with me. I volunteered a lot. I was on advisory boards very early, and I know a lot of people are thinking, well, Sonia's has all this experience. She's well spoken. She has credentials. She deserves to be on a board, but I'm just starting. I don't come from the industry. Let me tell you, you can be of service to a board as well. I think there's many benefits. Even when I came into the financial education industry, I served on boards. Now they were smaller to start. Bascom, I forget, it was Bascom Education, I believe it was called. Then it went to Junior Achievement Southern California. There's many others in the middle of that path. But I found it a great way to learn about the organizations, the challenges they were facing, the management side of things. Also, it really helped my brand early on because I could say I was a board member for these various types of organizations, and I enjoyed it. It was great to be around like-minded people. I found a new community. So no matter what level you're at in the space, no matter your background, there are nonprofits always looking for boards. That's a condition of having a nonprofit. You need to have a board. So I encourage you guys to find one in your local community to do so. And with that, Sonia, I want to bridge over into something that you're very good at, very great at, I should even say, is networking, building relationships, and through. Let me just touch on the board side, and then I'm going to bridge over to that. But Sonia is a board member that goes well above and beyond. Right, with our board, our California Financial Educators Council, we just ask for their participation, their knowledge and insight into what we're trying to accomplish to help us overcome challenges in really getting financial education programming across California. And that's all we ask for. But Sonia goes well above and beyond with emails, ideas, connections, and just above the call of duty. We appreciate all of our board members, but she does very well there. And before we get into the networking side, I just want to, for those that are looking to get into the advisory board side of things, what are some tips and strategies you can share that would help them really be a valued board member?
A valued board member. Well, there are a number of skills that are really important when you're on a board. I think the first is to listen. And that means to listen not only to the leaders of the organization, but to the other board members. And then I'm always a problem solver. So rather than coming with a problem, there may be a problem that needs to be addressed, but being creative and finding a solution. So I think that is really needed on boards as well. Sometimes that means thinking outside the box and putting yourself out there on a limb a little bit. But I think in community, which advisory boards and boards in general, are their community of peers, you can find solutions. So be the problem solver.
Yeah, that's always a great thing. We always appreciate when people have identify a challenge and have ideas. It may not be the exact idea, but at least it's working in that right direction. The board meetings that are focused on brainstorming ideas and solutions as opposed to just discussing problems, I find a lot more valuable. So I agree wholeheartedly there. And I think that leads us into this networking, this relationship building. Again, I think that's a key trait that you have. And early on, I think that was very important for our establishment as an organization. Can you share with people some ideas and strategies? Maybe they're newer starting out, or maybe they're the midway part of their creating their organization. Can you share some strategies that help you really build relationships and where people are like, hey, Sonia is forming this connection. I value her judgment. I'm going to take that call. Can you share your strategies there?
Sure. Interestingly, as a default, even in financial services, relationship management is where I ended up. I think part of that is just personal interest. I really enjoy people, and the people part of my job is what I enjoyed most and gravitated towards. So although I was in financial services, surrounded by the markets, surrounded by math and numbers and performance and what have you, money, it was the people side that I gravitated towards. That being said, we have new resources now that we can utilize. I mean, LinkedIn is amazing. You can find everyone and anyone almost on LinkedIn. And if you're younger in your career, or if you're just looking for advice, I think a lot of people are very receptive to you reaching out and saying, hey, I'm looking to do this. I would love some advice. Do you have like 15 minutes where we can connect via Zoom or over phone or what have you? And I think that's a very good way to begin the networking process. And then it can go both ways though too. So if you're asking for help, be very gracious, be very considerate, but then also see if there's anything that you can offer to help. And even just asking that question can be, very considerate. But for example, if you're a more seasoned person in your career and someone younger is asking for advice, that seasoned person may need some insight into younger people's perspective. So just even seeing if there's any way you can help, I think is always welcomed in that networking conversation. And then put yourself out there. So go to meetings you might not want to go to, or meaning like networking community things in your area, or an association meeting that you have interest in, and see if there's a way that you can offer to help again and get involved. And once you start having those conversations, and once you can start proving yourself, people will see your value, seek your advice, trust your judgment, and then also open up their network to you. I think finding the right people, it really takes a village, and you will help each other succeed. It takes a village, and networking is a big part of creating that village.
Great point, Sarah. I think there's a lot of golden nuggets, but I think the key, everybody needs to hear this and repeat this 20 times to themselves. Never ask without giving. I think that's a bottom line. If you're going to ask something, try to give something as simple as Sonja said. Hey, your perspective from your age group, or whatever the case may be. But take the time to consider how you can help that person. And if you don't know, say, hey, I want to help and serve you for your generosity of your time. You let me know how I can help and serve you, and I'm happy to exchange that. And just the offer alone is good. When people do that to me, I definitely take them up on it. But when people are just coming to me via LinkedIn asking, typically those are ignored. But if they're coming through with a thoughtful email with some insight, or saying, hey, I'm willing to help in exchange because your time is valued, that's a whole different perspective. So I think that's great. And I think also Sonja's ability leads to something she said earlier about being a very good listener. When you're networking, she's a great listener on the board side of things, but networking as well, because at least the relationship she's directed us to, or at least formed, connected us with, she knew our needs, she knew their needs, and she fit the puzzle pieces together. And I think that's a skill set that comes directly from her listening. So everybody out there, reach out to people. As Sonja said, go to those different meetings, put yourself out there, build relationships, always have a give in mind when you are serving them. Before I get into having you share some contact information and so forth, we'll put that up there for everybody as well. What's your vision for the financial wellness industry? What would you like to see for the youth of the future? Any final thoughts you have in terms of where you really want the future of people in terms of their financial education to be?
I would love financial wellness to be incorporated into our everyday lives. And it is so opposite right now. We are constantly bombarded by ads, even if it's for credit cards, or to spend money on things, or to go into more debt or more credit. We're definitely driven by a consumer environment. If all that could change and we could focus on financial security instead, and for example, the simpleness of paying yourself first, I think that things could be very different. When you're in a difficult financial situation, you don't make good life choices. And if financial wellness could be taught, or at least put out there to choose your option of what you believe in as far as financial wellness, but at least just to understand debt and financing and savings and what have you. If that could be as ingrained as even just the basics of nutrition, which I think we can work on more too, it could really change our society. And I just think about how different the world would be if nobody had to worry about debt, for example.
Yeah.
How different we'd function and how different our choices would be if we had the financial means to be more free in our optionality.
Yeah, I agree, and I'd love to see that vision come to life. We're working toward it, and I'm hoping it's there. And the reality is, I agree with you as far as the ads really driving consumers and purchases, especially with kids, are forming habits at a young age. And no matter what age group you're teaching, even little kids, as habits form between 7 and 9 for youth when it comes to finances. So even if you're working above 9 years old, there's already some financial habits ingrained, some behaviors ingrained. So a lot of this is behavioral. And the younger we start, I agree with you, the better it can be for the future. And I would love to see where people, and I have seen it, where people come from struggle and now they don't have to worry. They don't have those sleepless nights. They're not worrying about opening their credit card bill because they know it's gone up. I share that same vision for you. And I'm very appreciative of all your work you do in the space across all these organizations and really putting yourself out there on a high level to serve them to the best of your abilities. We personally appreciate it through the California Financial Educators Council. You've been great to work with there personally, and I'm always look forward to your emails because you always have some great insight and things to share. So I'm personally very appreciative there. And now please share how people can get in contact with you if they have any interest in serving for those organizations. We'll put links up to all the organizations you're working with as well, so you don't have to know the exact URL, but if you want to share any contact information or who you're looking to connect with.
Sure. So I can be found on LinkedIn. It's not so easy. It's Sonja with a J and Strzoda with a Z. But I think if you try to look me up, you'll find me on LinkedIn, and feel free to contact me there. I'm involved with a number of organizations, so you can look up those organizations. WISE, Women Investing in Security and Education. They can be found at wiseinvestors.org. And Knomee is KNOMEE.com. You can look into what Knomee's doing online as well as NuVision Federal Credit Union, which can be easily found online also. So I'm appreciative of you providing that information as a follow-up also, Vince, and for allowing me to be involved today and with NFEC California.
Yeah, I think you've given some great insight over a lot of different industries. I'm very thankful for you being here, and thank you again, Sonja.
Be well.